Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah. Mm, yeah. Mm, born and bred, saved by love, count my blessing from above.
And good evening. I am Marcus Holmes and excited to be here with you on another video cast of Love and Stuff. And I hope that you will click share, tag 5 of your closest Facebook friends, YouTube connections, Twitch TV followers, 5 of the more popular ones to join in tonight's discussion, which I think will be uh, a wonderful discussion. Thank you, Angie B, for joining us, as well as Howard Holmes, Wanda Jackson, Ernest Evans, and others. I hope you will click share and tag someone to join us to share in tonight's show. As you see, I'm not on Red Table Talk, and of course, I'm not on the red carpet, but I had to bring some red into this discussion because I think people over the last few days have been seeing red. And so I wanted to have some discussion about what everybody has been talking about and everybody has been commenting about. And I'm going to show this clip for which I do not have any rights, but I am under the copyright of 1976, showing this clip and using it as a permitted use for the purposes of critique. You all have seen it, and I'm going to show it now. And then I want to talk to you about whether or not how you feel about what has occurred. So click share and tag someone now. I'm going to share it right now.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? that was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the out of me.
Wife's name out your mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
The greatest night in the history of television, Chris Rock said. So we want you to chime in. Evelyn Graham, who I hope will join me on screen, she has the link to join me. I will read from many different people who have many different opinions about what has occurred. Thank you for joining us, Abundantly Gifted Bird. Thank you so much. I hope you will click share and tag 5 of your closest Facebook friends or YouTube connections and followers, 5 of your more popular ones to join in the discussion. I must admit, when I first saw this happen, and I did see it, like many of you, I was watching the Oscars. I do watch the Oscars. And I happened to see it and I thought it was scripted. I couldn't believe that Will Smith would walk on stage and smack, some people say host slap, smack Chris Rock. And I want to talk to you about, because some people are saying he did the right thing. And some people are saying we're absolutely horrified, mortified, and embarrassed. So I want to hear from you. What do you think? Drop it in the comments. And while you're doing that, I want to go into share with you with one person share with me in the inbox. And I'll be sharing throughout the evening, I hope, to share with you different perspectives that various people have had and have shared about what has occurred. So this is from Evelyn Graham, who I hope will join me very shortly. She shared, I am so disappointed with Will Smith. She shares, our race, Blacks, have waited so long to even be in the audience of this award ceremony, but to be able to receive an award trophy in your hand is like Black Lives Matter. A change came. Will could have sat his behind in the chair, waited until the ceremony was over, and talked to Chris Rock. I didn't see Chris's statement about Jada G.I. Jane 2 talking about her hair condition. I saw G.I. Jane 2 as a strong woman dealing with what was going on with herself, standing up against everyone and winning even when you were knocked down. She says, I watch G.I. Jane every time I know it's on. To me, the movie is about a woman not wanting to be a man, not taking anything away from men to want to be a Navy SEAL, but to let the SEALs know I can stand next to you and hold it down as you do. Will was wrong, she says. As much as and as long as Blacks have done wrong by this award, take his award away from him, she says. He dishonored, embarrassed all who fought for his Black ASS to get that chair. His wife Jada could have stopped him from going on stage. Chris Rock should get an award. He reacted as a man. So I'm going to hear from you, SC Roger Williams. Thank you for joining us. Said really disappointed. I too, I'm going to get my opinion out there early because I really want to leave the space for yours. And some of you have been commenting, and that's why I thought in this Women's History Month, I would take a slight detour from celebrating women's history, which I know is important and believe is important in our Love and Stuff community. But I wanted to take a moment to talk about one of the topics of the day. And of course, this is the topic of the last few days. And so for me, I saw it and I thought it was scripted. As a matter of fact, I'm still not sure that it wasn't totally scripted. In my mind, I thought it was scripted. And I thought, here is a person who we have ascribed great value and worth to, and who I think has been, for many, very palatable from the majority, right? And who has achieved a lot of different things. My expectation of him was a better display of emotional intelligence. That is my thought on it. But I understand and I empathize with the pressure that I believe African American men sometimes succumb to, is that you have to take some physical action to be seen as a man, to be seen as a protector, to be seen as a provider. I don't agree with that, right? I think that we can show those things without being physically violent and without being regarded as people who can only resort to that. And so I think there should have been some action, right? But not to go on stage and smack, especially another Black man. And I know that's not going to land well on people, but not to do that. So I was deeply disappointed. I'm hearing, though, from so many different sides that I wanted to, as we do in Love and Stuff, hear varying voices and perspectives, right? Because there are some people saying, they're cheering Will on and saying that's what a husband would do for his wife. In all fairness, I want to acknowledge those that have been in the inbox who told me you can't talk about that because you're not married. And what I said to them, and it made my niece laugh, but I didn't have many boos and bays in my day. And I can tell you, in response to boos and bays, while there is a pressure to stand up and say, I'm not going to be disrespected, it's how you stand up, right? It's how you show up and respond. Now, there are a number of factors, and we're going to get into those. I got one of my guests who is in the wings. I don't know if Will Smith would have known or could have known whether or not Chris Rock wrote the joke, whether or not he knew about his wife's alopecia, which many people knew. I didn't, but maybe he thought he did. Maybe he did. I don't know. But I'm interested in hearing from many of you, because some of you said, hey, commenting on her likeness to G.I. Jane was not an offensive comment. And of course, offense is the individual, right? So I think there has to be some grace and empathy on all sides. And that's what emotional intelligence is all about. It is about considering that there are many different factors that come into play before you go into actions. It's not, I don't discredit him for feeling the emotions that he felt, though some are arguing he laughed. But even if he laughed and his wife was like, that's not funny, and he had to side with her, when you feel your emotions, when you are triggered, as we all have been, right? When you are triggered, you have to make the choice to self-regulate. And it's maybe tough to do when millions of people are watching and you feel the pressure of a life in which you have felt maybe cowardice, right? but you have still that power. And in this case, he was not able to summons the control of those emotions, I believe. And in in many ways, it could cost him much more than just the slap. It could cost him that Oscar, which would be heartbreaking for me. I see so many that are joining, and we're going to jump into these comments. I'm going to bring Darren Williams, who has joined us, and Evelyn Graham. I'm waiting for you to join us too. Marshall Gilkey, who I've been praying for. Thank you for joining us. Sherry Oliver says, I wasn't sure if that was scripted. No answer. Love them. They own it, not us. Grace. All right. Katrina Brown has joined us. Thank you all that are coming through. I'm just acknowledging as I do. Mike Flanell says, what Will did set us back years as Black people. I'm going to read something that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wrote, and I think it is something that's along what you're saying, Mike Flanell. It has no significance what we think. God knows it all. Okay. Nope. Who cares? God does. I do too, Sherry. That's who cares. I do. Not for us to judge. I don't know if we're judging. We may be judging. Yep. We have an opinion, certainly. And I think when you live as publicly as he does, people are gonna have an opinion, right? But I wish him well, and I think we should give him grace, but I don't think we should condone violence, right? I think this gives the message that we're all prone to violence, and we're not. Thankfully for me, we had Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson be so eloquent just before that it might balance some things out. But some of us live and work in corporate where we do have to face people who make these generalizations about our being prone to violence, right? Will is wrong as two left shoes. Fact is, he would have never done that to a white comic. We are to exhibit control, answer them. Nope, God knows we aren't God. We don't have to be God. I love that, Sherry. We don't have to be God to have an opinion. And yeah, we're going to talk some more. Maybe we can get you on. All right, I'm going to bring in Darren Williams is joining us from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hello there, sir.
Good evening, brother Marcus. How you doing, man?
I am doing well, thank you. And thank you for joining us. I'm looking for Evelyn Graham to join us as well. So Evelyn, you're in the comments, you're in the wrong spot. Darren, so I know you said in your comment you don't watch the Oscars, and years ago I had a roommate who was a playwright and actor, and so his regimen was every year before the Oscars he watched all of the movies that were nominated, and most of all of us who were his friends had to watch them too. And so we got quite an education around movies. Some of the movies probably would have been ones that I wouldn't have watched. But I so appreciated having him as a friend, bless his memory, Anthony Howard, to watch all of these movies. So I do keep up with the Oscars, but you said you didn't watch the Oscars, you don't watch the kind of stuff. What do you think about what you heard about? Have you seen the clip?
I have. The reason I even know about it is because my sister sent it to me, and I didn't even know contextually what was going on. I had to find out after I received the clip that had just occurred. And so yeah, it was obviously it was it was a big something, to a spectacle is what it was.
Yeah. And what do you think about, let me ask you this. And again, ladies, Darren Williams that I know of is not married. I'm just putting that plug out there, but not married. But if you were with your significant other and a joke, a distasteful joke maybe, was hurled, and I'm not even sure it's distasteful because I'm not sure what Chris Rock knew, right? But a joke was hurled that you thought was distasteful or your lady friend thought was distasteful. Do you think it would ever be appropriate to react where your go-to is to hit the other person?
Well, now you put very strict parameters when you say if I ever think it would be appropriate. Let me respond this way though. I'm not a promoter of violence in any sense. However, I am an ardent supporter for self-defense. I think context is always key. And in this context, the precursor to the joke was, Jada, I love you. That was Chris Rock. Jada, I love you. And then he tells the joke. But absolutely no, 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 not that response.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of, there's the defending idea and the being the man and all of that kind of stuff, which I think that perspective on defending his wife and being but what if that's what being a man is, I think those are misguided interpretations of the action. That's my personal belief on that, because defending in that context was far more than just to defend his wife, and that was not a defense of his wife in my estimation.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And what I was saying, you're right. I made some kind of parameters because it would be a different thing if you thought that you were in physical danger or your wife was in physical danger. And that's why I put those parameters. Clearly at the Oscars, because there was no security at the stage. Clearly at the Oscars, because I bet if it were BET, there'd be security at the stage. But clearly at the Oscars, you are not in imminent danger of somebody coming to punch your wife. Especially as you pointed out, he said, "I love you." Right?
Yes.
Before hurling what some say is distasteful. And again, I don't know what Chris Rock was intending with the comparison, whether or not he knew that she had alopecia. We have not heard from Chris Rock. There appears to be an apology circulating that is not from his camp. So I don't understand. I don't know. But there was no physical imminent danger for him or his wife, right? As a matter of fact, when he was walking up, I was just in my mind sure it was scripted, that this was a part, because too many of the jokes are happening in scripts and you never know where they're going. And he's walking up, and then when the as they say sometimes in the hood, the whole slap was landed. After he slapped them, I thought, oh, this is definitely scripted. Because I would not imagine that his response would be that. Kiera Coleman Ward has joined us, whose song we play in the opening. We're going to have to get you under contract, sir. Sherry Oliver says that's a man. That's not a man. That's a boy. I believe to his defense, to many people's defense, I believe that men, let me go back and set it this way. Emotional quotient or emotional intelligence is not static. You can progress or regress. It is not like personality, which is pretty static unless you have some metamorphosis. It's not like IQ, which is static unless you have some mental injury or cognitive damage. Emotional intelligence can progress and regress. So a man who experiences trauma and that trauma is revisited through a trigger can regress quickly. Anybody could, even people who are emotionally intelligent, because you got to always practice at mastering your emotions. So I don't want to say he's a boy, though I appreciate that opinion. I do want to say he's a man who did not display emotional intelligence. Now, could he have more maturity? Maybe. Couldn't we all? Probably. And we could all seek to master our emotions better. And that's not to condone. I think he was absolutely wrong. It was absolutely wrong move to make. But I do understand from our cultural perspective, unfortunately for some, men are reared in a way where we think, some men, that you have to do something physically to display your manhood. And if you have been in that environment or been traumatized by such an environment, that will show up at the wrong times in your life. And that's one of the things that I think happened here, because that is what our culture, a part of our culture, has shown most light on. And it's unfortunate because now others in other communities might use it as an excuse to say, see, that's how they do.
Sure.
And we're not a monolith, right? As Darren often says here, right? We all don't do the same, but because we are communal, that's why people are so invested in this, because we're communal. We feel like it's us. It's not just him. It is us. And so I'm going to let you respond. I'm going to go to the comments, and I'm going to bring Mary Graham in because I read her statement and I wanted to hear from her as well. So let me go to the comments and thank all of you that are joining. I have to put this out there. I don't do a lot of salacious topics because I know people like salacious stuff, and to some degree, it could be for good fodder. But I am really committed to taking us below the fodder and getting into real love stuff. And I know that that's not everybody's cup of tea, but I thank you for joining us tonight. And I don't want to mislead you. Next week, it might not be the next topic of the week. It might. You never know. But we took a little detour from Women's History Month because so many people were saying there are different comments about this, and I wanted to share it. All right. Sherry says it's all about culture. I was married to a white man who would stand up for me any day of the week, but he wouldn't stoop to that level. Okay, I appreciate that because I think that there are people who would go to that level, Sherry, black, white, other, and there are people who wouldn't. And I think unless you've been in the situation, you got to give grace for where people are and what they might experience. And that doesn't mean you condone what they do, but you understand that there are more than one factor at play here. And I think that's important. Denzel had just told him the devil comes after you when you are on the, yes. I think it is a setback. Yep, I do. I think it is for us. Crystal Williams has joined us. Willie Rogers has joined us. Thank you all so much. Eunice Hunter has joined us. So many. Brenda Bracewell, thank you all so much. Brenda Bracewell was a part of our team who's writing our Lift Every Voice and Vote. And hopefully we're going to be soon putting that pledge out. So see, in Love and Stuff, we do all kinds of stuff, not just the ratchet if you think it's ratchet. I don't think it's ratchet. I think it's relevant. I think it's relevant because I think people are so fired up about it because we do take such ownership about the things that happen. I just wish we took this kind of ownership about the things that are happening in our community and around it. That's my own thing. I'm gonna bring Mary Graham in. Thank you for joining us here with me and Darren. Mary Graham.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and you're patting your hair. You look wonderful. You don't have to, you look just fine.
Well, I'm in a bed, so what can I say?
Okay. I wanted to I read your inbox already, but I wanted to double back to it because you believe they should take the award from him.
I do.
You do. Tell me why.
They have policies and procedures that are written. Okay. And it's taken us a long time to get even inside of the building of the Oscars, of this award ceremony. And for Will Smith to do what he did to him, I'm just angry with him. And for him to do what he did, he could have waited. But then again, like you guys were saying, his emotions and looking at his wife made him do something different than what I thought he should have done. I personally thought Chris Rock was not talking about her alopecia.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because in your inbox you said that you watched G.I. Jane a lot of times. So tell us, when you heard the G.I. Jane comparison, what did you think?
I think he was talking about her strength as a Black woman, because G.I. Jane was very, very determined on what she did in that movie, because she wanted to be a Navy SEAL, and it wasn't that many. I don't think it was any women Navy SEALs when they did that movie, and she went through rigorous training. She went through training that I know that I wouldn't have been able to do as a woman. She got her behind kicked, and what was her name?
Demi Moore.
Yeah, her. Yes, she got her behind whooped. She never had to cut her hair. She cut her hair because she wanted to cut her hair. And when he made the statement of to me, when Jada Pinkett could be the next G.I. Jane 2 or whatever he said, I think he was talking about her inner strength as a woman, her courage of cutting her hair off with the alopecia, because a lot of people have alopecia and they're going through it with the alopecia because a lot of people just don't accept women with bald heads. And I was going to cut my hair off because my sister has alopecia. I was going to cut my hair off, to hang with her and be bald. and I probably would have loved it because I'm about tired of my hair. And, but I'm jumping all over the place. But getting back to Will Smith, he should have sat his little narrow behind down in his chair and waited later. He could have talked to Chris Rock after the fact. I don't care how your wife looked at it. And Jada could have stopped him from going up to the stage. I fought her also. So,
yep. I wanted to ask you about two things. I want to play the devil's advocate in one thing. What if Chris Rock did know that she was having a struggle with alopecia? Does that make a difference in how you feel Will might have taken it or responded?
He's a comedian. That's his job. That's his job to pick out something that sometimes they think that you're weak on. But I don't even know if he was doing it for that Sunday, you know, to bring down her weakness or to pull Will's. I didn't even know, and I didn't even know personally everybody that Will and Jada was having the problems that they are having. And but no, I don't personally think he did it. I don't think he would have done anything like that on purpose to say something like that to that man's wife. And Will again should have sat down. And yes, I personally think that Will should have that trophy taken away from him. I'm sorry.
I want to ask Darren that same question. Yep, I want to ask Darren, do you think his award should be taken away, Darren?
No, I don't think the award should be taken away. I don't hold that perspective on it. However, I don't see, well, let me say it this way. Kanye West is disinvited from performing at an award show for his behavior on Instagram, with Will conducting himself that way at the Academy Awards. I believe maybe him not being invited back is an appropriate response to that from the Academy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Autumn on in a little bit. She says that maybe he should not be allowed to win ever again.
Well, now that's profiling though. That's profiling, and so I don't think that far. But not inviting him to participate. Now, whatever the committee does with voting and his art, that's one thing. But the invitation to the event, I think, is appropriate because of where the altercation occurs. And can I say very quickly too, Brother Marcus, two other things. Number one, in terms of he being a boy, I would not characterize him as a boy. I would characterize his actions as an immature man. His wife is an extremely strong woman. And apparently, personally, more stronger than he.
Yeah.
And his display, what it reveals is that he may not even know how to protect his wife. Violence transacts in our culture. And that's black, that's white, that's just in American culture right now. There's an extreme rise in violence. That violence transacts. And it's the easy reaction to things. Thinking people don't resort to violence first. Okay, it's the easy reaction to things. And he's seeing the person, in my mind, who is stronger than he, struggling with the joke that's made about her. His easy reaction is a violent reaction to that. And then let me say, in terms of the hair piece, I don't think, and I'm a preacher, so people's communicate, body language and everything, that's always a focus for me. Chris Rock wasn't even comfortable with telling the joke himself. That's why he gives the disclaimer, I love you, Jada. And you can see the discomfort as he delivers the joke, okay? However, this isn't the first time Jada has done this with her hair. We've seen her with her hair cut like this before. So whether he knows alopecia or not, I don't even see it as a malicious kind of dig. However, And the sister just made this, brought up this, that Chris Rock is a comedian, but Will Smith is a comedian too. He knows how this game goes.
So let me ask you both this then. Do you think that the joke was distasteful? I'm not even sure that Chris Rock was the writer of the joke, but
yeah,
was the joke distasteful? And do comedians go too far?
Last question first. Yes, comedians go too far. Was the joke distasteful? Not to me, even given her circumstance.
Okay.
Because the joke was not about, the joke was about a comparison with the look an actor had in a role and how she similarly looks. Now, there's more behind it. Obviously, that. I don't believe Chris Rock was digging at what was behind it.
And do you think that Jada thought he was digging at what was the alopecia?
I think for her, because Jada, she's a really sensitive woman. I think just because the joke was on her is why she didn't like it. That's my impression, because it was on her. Because when he says, Jada, I love you, big smile. She breaks out in a big smile.
Yeah. What about you, Mary? What do you think? I don't know. Did you press your on mute?
You're muted, Mary.
You're still muted. I don't know. Are you cussing? Is that what's happening? You cussing and we can't hear it? Is that what's going on? What is happening? I believe it. I believe I know you. I believe it. So as you figure that out, I'm going back to the comments. Mike Flanoa says it was a joke. And I believe it was a joke. I don't believe, though, Mike, that Chris wrote the joke. And I'm kind of conspiracy theorist on that a little bit. Now, wait a minute. I don't hear either of you.
Because I did mute. In fact, I know he didn't write the joke. Yeah. His discomfort with delivering it is one of the evidences. But the main evidence is all of those shows are written anyway.
They are. And so do you wonder, I mean, because of the first time the Black person, a person of color produces the show, do you think, I'm a conspiracy theorist, yes I am, did they know that this would get a rise out of Will, this would bolster the ratings? Did they know that Will was going to win and then be embarrassed after? I'm wondering how much of this was to get the ratings bolstered.
I believe that they knew the joke would be a big joke. I don't know that they intended or expected that Will would take it where he took it, though.
Okay. All right. Mary, did you get your mute off? You done cussing?
She ain't through.
Okay, you got to find your mute so we can get you off mute. For those of you that are just joining, I'm talking to Darren Williams and to Mary Graham about, we're going to dovetail into whether or not this apology is enough. I don't know if you read that, and I'm going to read a bit of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's response. You all have seen, if anybody hasn't seen it, you haven't been watching the phone or the TV, that in response to a joke that might have been poorly hurled and poorly landed, maybe, Will Smith goes onto the stage at the Oscars and some people will say host slaps Chris Rock. And whether or not that was appropriate, I want to get Autumn in here. So Autumn, you got to get the link, because I want to find out. I'm hearing people across all perspectives. Some people are saying, yay, Will. I don't want a man that ain't going to hit somebody if they disrespect me. I'm hearing a segment of, and mostly, with all due respect, mostly younger people are saying that, though I find some people that are what I would call older that are saying that, but mostly younger people are saying, if I don't have a man like that, I don't want a man like that. And then there are the other people who told me, Darren, well, you don't understand this because you're not married. And
Yeah.
I quickly told them, you're right, I'm not, but I, like many married people, I didn't have booze and bays. Some married people still got booze and bays, but that's another show. And I can tell you that with a little bit of being in public that I have, nothing in comparison to Will, people do think that they can say all kind of things to you. People do say all kind of things, but I don't take it as an opportunity to respond in a way where I am going to hit somebody because of something that they say. But emotional intelligence is something I think in our community, and I'm going to say especially, that we have to work to progress as a people, because we've been prone to respond and have been oppressed and seen so much violence. It becomes a go-to, not an excuse, but it becomes a go-to for a lot of people, instead of doing what you said, Darren, thinking. Sometimes it is because some people are inculcated into violence, and there are reasons why, right? There are many factors why it seems to be rampant in communities everywhere, and even more so in some of our African American communities. But that is not the appropriate go-to response. But there are people saying, yes, it is. That's how you handle it. So I wanted to hear from. Go ahead.
I'm going to say this. The question becomes, what is the goal? Okay. If your wife's honor has been offended, what is the goal? The goal is to restore her honor. Here's the thing. What it used to be is, if I'm beating you up, it's because you're going to apologize to her, which restores her honor. And if it's just a fact of me brutalizing or executing violence against you, that has accomplished nothing but my emotionalism. Now, I don't even say that Will Smith approaching the stage was wrong. I don't say that that was wrong. What I think would have been a manly and more a gentlemanly response had he said to Chris, that was offensive to my wife. I want you to apologize to her. That to me would have been the strongest, manliest, most defensive thing that he could have done, because he would have moved Chris Rock from the position of the joke to submitting to his wife an apology. That to me is strength. That's manly there.
Yeah. I don't know that I wanted him to go to the stage. I would have, from my seat though, if it were me, I would have said, watch it, that's my wife.
Even that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna have to see you later. I'm kind of with Mike Flanoyle, though I'm not quite with you, Mike. Mike says I would have handled Chris with no witnesses. I don't know. But I would have certainly, in that moment, because it probably would have got a rise of my emotions, because emotional intelligence is not about not feeling your emotions. It's mastering them, right? It's self-regulation. So in that moment, I'm sure I would have said, that's my wife.
Yeah. And my only point again, I said if he approaches it, because he did go to the stage. I'm saying because he did handle it that way. But yes, what he did after he left the stage, I'm 100% in agreement with you. That's what it should have been at first.
Yeah.
To my mind.
Yeah. I'm going to bring in a younger version. I'm saying younger version. Uh-oh. Did it not bring you in? There you go. I see your face. There you go. So Autumn, tell me, because we've talked about this a little bit. I wanted to hear from you. You didn't think it was a bad joke. I don't want to leave to, I want you to talk.
No, I don't think it was a bad joke. Like, she looked like G.I. Jane. That's the truth. She bald head. G.I. Jane is bald head. I see the similarity. I don't think it was a bad joke if it wasn't considered that she had alopecia. I think there are some people who are aware of her condition, and there were others. And as a point that had been made earlier is that we've seen her with a bald head before. So what's the difference between now and then if you didn't really know?
I want to ask you this, and we talked about this too. A lot of younger people, Autumn, are saying, and Mary disappeared. A lot of younger people are saying, some younger people are saying, if a man won't do that for me, I don't want to have him as my man. So I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Period. Because if he not defending me, then what he doing?
And so you
That's
see
the
that
least you
as
could do.
defending your honor?
I feel like it's defending my honor, of course, the respect. Yes, I feel like it would be defending my honor. I don't know I would want him to take it to that full level, but if he just sat there and was quiet while my feelings was hurt, or he noticed it, that's a problem that we're gonna have to talk about at home. Or one point that I thought was kind of funny was he was laughing right after the joke until he realized that she was offended by it. And it couldn't have been me, because I would have been like, what you laughing at? Why you laughing? So yeah, he would have had to defend my honor, of course.
But not to the extent where he went on stage and hit somebody. Or is that what you're saying?
No, I don't believe to the extent of where he would have went on stage and hit somebody. But once he did it, she had to stand behind it, but regardless.
And so would you have tried to stop him from going on stage if you knew that's what he was going to do?
For the public, for the culture, for the Black people, yes, I would have, because they already don't want us at the Oscars, or we're not as accepted as our white counterparts at the Oscars. So yes, I would have wanted to stop him or told him, no, wait till after. But the act of him hitting him, I wouldn't have done it on national television, but if that's how he felt was the best way to defend my honor, I would have, babe, save it for later. Wait till the after party. Wait till we get outside, something. But yeah.
So you would have been okay if he would have slapped him, just not publicly.
Yeah, not publicly.
Got it.
Embarrassing our culture on national television. That's just not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't, so if it was at the which party did they have? The Jay-Z party, the Beyonce party? Would you tell me which party?
Yeah, the Jay-Z and Beyonce after party.
So if they were at the after party and he slapped him, would that have been okay?
See, you got to be careful with that too, because in this day and age, cameras, everybody got their video camera out, everybody has their phone out. So to me, that's still public. It's not as public as on national television, but it is still in public. I mean, if it was a private room with him, Jay-Z, Diddy, where that private conversation might have been had, like Diddy had mentioned or suggested, then yeah, that's okay. But in a place where somebody could easily pick up their phone and start recording and it hit the tabloids just like it's on the tabloids now, no.
Yeah. And what would you say to some of us, how you think we're older folks? Some of us
y'all a little bit seasoned. Yeah.
Seasoned folks would say they're just going to violence publicly or privately just isn't the way. How do you feel about that? You froze, at least on my end. You are frozen. Okay. I stumped you apparently. Christina Smith has joined us. Roger Williams says, for so many sisters, Chris jokes touched a nerve about Black women in mainstream demonization of their hair appearance. Great point. Roger, I want to send you the link. I want you to come on with me and Darren. So Darren, I'm coming back to you. You've heard a little bit about Autumn's thought about defending her honor. And I think there are some that went a step further than Autumn and said, the hit was perfectly fine. That's what you get for landing that joke. I think a lot of people think that Chris knew her struggle with alopecia and that it was geared toward that.
Still, even if that's the case, I'm again, what my characterization is that being misguided. And look what I mean, even in the case of people who say he did right. If you sue somebody for libel or defamation of character, what is the outcome? If they are found to be wrong, they have to retract their statement. They have to go back and say, in essence, what I said was wrong, that I was wrong. In this case, there is no justice brought to Jada, even after Will assaults Chris for the joke, because the joke is still out there. Will has slapped him, but he's not even, Chris has not said anything in terms of retracting or taking it back from Jada.
Yeah.
And I'm saying in that case, nothing has been accomplished but a spectacle of senseless violence.
Yeah, I agree with that. Christina Smith has joined us, as well as Tabitha Goodner. Good evening to you both. Roger, I want to inbox you the link because I want you to come. I think you're making some great comments. I'm wondering if Chris has been silent because maybe his publicist is telling him that because he didn't write the joke. So who is the joke really on?
And that's a very good point, because guess what Chris does the next day? Chris laughs all the way to the bank.
Yeah.
He laughs all the way to the bank.
Yeah, because the joke really, he didn't write it. He only delivered what was written. And so is there liability for the Oscars? And now that puts a tinge on the Black producer, right? Why would this happen the time that the Black producer is producing the show, that there is senseless violence and it's at the hands of what people love to say, Black on Black crime? People love to say Black on Black crime. Black lives don't matter to Black people. Look at the highest echelon, which people think entertainers are, the highest echelon of Black excellence. And look at they can't even behave themselves. You see that? And so
absolutely.
I'm wondering if Chris has been quiet because people have so advised him, well, hold on, let's just wait to see, how exactly we want to play this out. I'm hoping he's quiet because he could broker a powerful thing for Will. Even though Will was wrong, he can make sure that Will keeps that trophy and says there will be no repercussions against the Oscars on my behalf because he was injured reading somebody else's stuff. I'm hoping that he will hold out for that kind of thing.
And we know already he has not pressed any charges, filed any police report or anything like that. So I believe even from the way, again, of what we did see on stage, it's not an issue for Chris Rock. He didn't take even Will doing what he did, because when Will yells out, keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth, what does Chris say? I will. He said it on stage. I will.
I think one thing, and I love that you're like me, but you're the better version, I think, of me. But you like to watch people, and I kind of find a fascination about that. It could be the human resources aspect of it. But to me, Darren, Chris did, his first recoil was like, I'm from Brooklyn. And so to me, at first he was like, wow, like I would, but I love that he did in that moment master his emotions, because that's nothing more than that for him to say, wow, I just got smacked, instead of coming through with that recoil and saying, I'm from Brooklyn and let me show you, or I'm from Detroit or wherever I'm from, let me show you.
And watch it. If anybody had the right to be violent, Chris Rock did.
Yeah. Yep.
He did.
Yeah.
And I think, once you get to the apology part, there's some other parts of that. I think that the value in the way that Chris Rock handles it, I think, and people are rejecting it, but I think it takes things to a whole nother level, because I think Chris realized, or maybe he didn't even realize, but there is a bigger defense that needed to be happening just than Jada Pinkett's honor.
Mm-hmm. What's that bigger defense that you say?
The representation of our culture. You've said it already, and other people in the comments have said it. This is an international stage. We are already stereotyped. We're already ostracized. We're already have all kind of negative impact at us in Hollywood. And now on the biggest stage of Hollywood, this is here. That's got to be defended. Yeah. That's got to be defended above everything, I believe.
Yeah. We're talking to Darren Williams, and we're talking about what everybody's talking about. And Phyllis Lloyd has joined us as well. I hope you will click, share, and tag someone to join us. I'm going to read Will Smith's apology, and then I'm going to read a little bit from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's statement, which I think we'll have some more discussion. And then, of course, if you haven't read it, Darren and others, Gary Chapman's 5 apology languages, I think, restitution, which is one of them, expressing regret, which is one of them, saying I'm wrong is another of them, having a plan to change the behavior and actually changing the behavior. Christina says, I'm sick of it. I think it's living so much, not only because, let's face it, you heard Evelyn, if you didn't say before, a lot of people that watch the Oscars that are African American are now watching it with such pride because for many years we were snubbed, and still to some degree, I think we are. And so some people watch it, those that do watch it with such pride. So we're invested in seeing our people get the credibility that we think that they should among everybody else. We always, that's one of our blessings or curses, depending on how you look at it. We want to have the same credibility as other people instead of create our own. Say what you want to say about that. We do. And we have a pride in being there. And now it's jeopardized, right? All of the things that we think that we have worked for and supported people through feels jeopardized. And so that's one of the things that I believe, Christine, is why we keep hearing about it. And the second thing I think is because we get so invested in our people. Now, we love salacious stuff, but if it's salacious stuff about African American people, we feel like we got an opinion and something to say about everything that happens. So I think you're going to hear a little bit more about it for a little bit. But let me read this apology from Will Smith. He says, violence in all of its forms is poisonous and destructive. My behavior at last night's Academy Awards was unacceptable and inexcusable. Jokes at my expense are a part of the job, but a joke about Jada's medical condition was too much for me to bear, and I reacted emotionally. I would like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. I was out of line and I was wrong. I am embarrassed, and my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be. There is no place for violence in a world of love and kindness. I would also like to apologize to the Academy, the producers of the show, all the attendees, and everyone watching around the world. I would like to apologize to the Williams family and my King Richard family. I deeply regret that my behavior has stained what has been an otherwise gorgeous journey for all of us. I am a work in progress. Sincerely, Will. So, hearing that apology, do you think that the apology is enough?
The apology that night, I think, was more important and truer to Will than this. This is prepared, okay? Because he said something in that apology that night, I think that actually tips the scales on the whole incident. He says, well, first of all, he didn't apologize to Chris that night.
That's correct.
But then he said that he wants to be a vessel of love.
Yes, and a river to his people.
And a river. Okay, so he did have that sense of defending, our community in that too. Okay, so I think that was a truer apology. But in terms of the issue of being a vessel of love, he contradicts himself in that apology because he does not apologize to the person that he directly offended. Okay, and so the way that apology came out, second contradiction, well, actually this was the first contradiction in it. He says that this isn't about awards for me, but his first apology was to the Academy. That's a contradiction. Okay, and you cannot have it both ways. If you are remorseful about what you've done, and if love is your ethic, there was only one entity violated in that situation, and that was Chris Rock, and he should apologize to his wife too. Now, for the apology that you just read, I think even there, to me, what would have made that more concrete and sincere, had that apology included a line, I want to apologize to you, Chris, as I have already reached out to you.
Yeah. I think that would be good if he has. And I think Christina is saying, You need, if you smack me in person, you need to apologize in person. I don't know that we can talk through the publicist and through the commonwealth of words. I think I need to see you, and maybe not on Wilshire Boulevard. I don't know where I need to see you, but I need to
or
see
on
you.
the phone, at least on the phone.
Not for me. Just not me.
Okay, okay.
If Darren Williams smacks me and host slaps me on TV, we got to have a meeting of the minds in person, because I don't think that the phone call, it just won't feel the same for me. What I didn't like in the written apology is he's still trying to explain, like Ricky Ricardo was saying. He's still trying to explain, because the joke was said about my wife's alopecia. Now, the only way you know that is if Chris Rock said, yeah, I knew about her alopecia. But quite frankly, he probably knows that this was scripted.
Yeah.
Chris Rock probably didn't even write this.
Literally.
So you really have in your apology a disclaimer, which is what I hate when people tell me, Marcus, if I've offended you, you stopped apologizing there.
Right there.
If you say, I was only reacting because you are sarcastic, okay, you stop apologizing, because now you're laying the blame on my actions for your reaction.
That's right.
So to me, that's not, you can't put that in an apology. They got the best of me and I responded. We saw what happened. Own and express regret. Say, I'm wrong. I express regret for my part in it. And Chris, I'm going to be picking up the phone in a few days when the cooler heads prevail. And if you want me to fly you out, you will be flued out. Right.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's really any other way to do that. Karen Poole, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. She says he mentioned defending his mom. And I was going to ask you about that, but I tried to, in the beginning, lay a little bit of that out, because I think it's really important, for at least for me. I know that when someone is raised in a culture of fear and a culture where you feel that you have to defend your parents, or you have to defend your wife or your girlfriend, and I can't speak for white culture, I can say Black culture that I've experienced and seen, men are sometimes, boys to men are sometimes made to feel that they're emasculated in some way when they don't stand up to defend with physical action. And so Will has been fairly public about feeling cowardice when he didn't respond to help his mother when she was experiencing domestic violence, right? And in his apology that he said at the Oscars, he talked about protecting these women, though I think he was trying to do damage control to say, this is why I respond, and I'm betwixt being a vessel of love and being a protector. It still says to us that you haven't found a way to be a vessel of love and protect without violence. And what makes that problematic is we have a whole new generation that is, I will say, enthralled and enamored to Bel-Air from the original Bel-Air. And here is the iconic actor who started all of that in this grapple of sorts between being a vessel of love and being an abuser of the brethren, right? And so that slaps us all when we're trying to say, but that's not how you respond in being a vessel of love. And poor Williams sisters are sitting there wanting to cringe, but they know that the cameras are on them, because how do you respond when someone has played your father and won this Oscar and is saying, but I'm trying to protect people, when in fact your actions aren't speaking from that place and space of love. I want to ask you, Darren, what did you hear in that apology that you heard? And you talked about some of it, that he spoke at the Oscars, that you would say to younger men that are watching, that ain't it.
Yeah. Well, and then one part that I didn't say anything about is that he even invoked Richard Williams in the apology, talking about him, his having to protect his family. And this is what I say to that, and I'll say to young men, because it's too prevalent where there is the experience of seeing domestic violence as perpetrated against women that we love and are related to. You have to separate. You have to separate your experience with your reality. There's no way Will can recover what he didn't do in defense of his mother then. There's no way that's not reality. Okay. And so if that's where you're living, this is what I'm talking about, maturity. Because as a man, on a daily basis, and as an African American man, on a minute by minute basis, the protection and defense of who you are is what's always at stake. And too many times we act out of what our emotionalism and relationship to other people is, without regard to what it means to who I am as a man, or we impute what I am as a man into our relationship with other people. And that's nonsensical, because you still leave them uncovered and you put yourself out there and make yourself look like a fool.
We're talking with Darren Williams, and you can see why. He is a staple in our Love and Stuff community and sharing some great commentary, and I hope that you will continue to. Thank you, Anthony Smith, for joining us. Christina says he should have went live or write to him an apology personally, not to the public. Okay, I would certainly appreciate it, even though I want to talk to him. I would want to talk. Anthony Smith, thank you for joining us. I like Will. He did some of the same things on the set with Aunt Viv. I'm missing a part of your comment because I think it has an emoji. He's going through something, I think. I think he is too. I think he is going through something. And I think that's why emotional intelligence, and Anthony Smith, you know this, is important, because we all going to be going through something. And we all are going to have tools and resources to help us navigate what we are going through. Even the unhealed wounds that we carry for whatever reasons. Right. We got to still navigate. We're still responsible to navigate through what we're going through. And we can't relegate that responsibility to a momentary insanity, but because that's to Roger's point, Roger, which I'm trying to get you to link, brother, because you're making these great comments to join Darren. That this does play out in our communities all the time. And so, and with deadly consequences. You're right, Roger. And so here we have somebody at the high echelon, because we adore our athletes and entertainers more than we do our plumbers and our, tradespeople. So we glorify them. And here we have played out before us a real life reality show. And what does that say to the people that are in the neighborhoods or hoods about what tools we should use to conduct ourselves when we are in the fray of things that we don't want to experience, don't like to experience, or feel as if they might be a visceral attack to us. They may have felt that it was a visceral attack. I don't see that, but I'm not them, right? So the individual has to take responsibility for how something lands on them and be able to navigate it, right? And Karen raises a good point, and he claimed that his actions were aligned with King Richard. I think he was grappling there, Karen, to try to salvage and save, right, what he thought could be left of the night, because he realized that he had made a gargantuan mistake, and he thought, here I got the award, and now it's even worse. And I think it is, and it will be worse for many times to come. Vicki Johnson Williams has joined us. Thank you so much for joining us. Karen says, but honestly, I think he was defending his manhood and it continually being under attack, beginning with sharing his wife with Tupac in August. And I don't disagree. That's why I have a little more empathy than maybe the ordinary person might think, because, I got kind of told off in the inbox a little bit, and I told him, I'm not scared of y'all. I'm not scared. The reason that I make sure that you can tell me off in the inbox, because I'm loving stuff. And my family is the stuff. So don't try me too many ways. My family might show up anywhere. So that's why I say, tell me all off that you want to tell me, because I'm not married. And how can you talk about this? Because you don't understand that. What I do understand is emotional intelligence. And what I do understand is it takes emotional intelligence to navigate when your emotions can get the best of you. Okay. And what I do understand is at any moment, all of the things that you've dealt with and the things you haven't can come forward without your expressed permission And you need to be able to use tools and resources to navigate that. And we need to really do it publicly so that other people who are watching us as role models can say,
Sure.
oh, that's how you handle it, like Chris Rock did.
Sure. And especially his age, but I'm not using age because there are a whole lot of immature grown folk, but especially his platform. So when you're talking about emotional intelligence, amen, I'm calling it that his immaturity as a man. And what I'm saying to that is that what we do not do, you gotta take that extra moment before you respond to whatever has just happened. Okay. And that's where emotional intelligence is found, not in the reaction to the stimuli, but the response to what has happened. That's where the emotional intelligence is found. And that just that.
Yeah. I'd even take you back a step as I coach people on emotional intelligence. And again, that buoy can go either way depending on a set of things. It's something you practice. So
sure that
before you get to the stimuli response, you learn what your triggers are. And your trigger is feeling that you're not a protector. That's a trigger. Your trigger is feeling like you're not enough for the wife that you have and that maybe she wasn't your first choice and still isn't. That's a trigger. And feeling that somebody might make an attack against her because she comes bald, because she has alopecia, if that's what you feel. You practice, you sit in those emotions so that you can master them and self-regulate when the stimuli happens, so you already have a path to how you respond. Because you can't expect to be at that level in your life or any level in this day and time and not have stimuli that you consider to be negative. So you got to practice before you get to the event. And he knows this because he knows about rehearsing and practicing.
Sure.
Because in that moment, for some people who haven't practiced, it's too quick for you to be able to navigate it. And that's what happens. When you don't practice emotional intelligence, it'll be too quick for you to navigate it in the moment. You're already behind the 8 ball because you don't know how to sit in your emotions and then self-regulate and say, I got choices here, right?
Agreed.
Tabitha says this is about a person to reset principles before responding consistently. Thank you for that. Roger Williams says, Will, like most men, need to be mentored by other strong brothers. Now, Roger, I'm going to keep bringing you in this room. That's why I quoted Denzel during his acceptance speech. I think that's great. I think you're right. And I think, again, in our culture, in our diaspora, in this part of our diaspora of our experience in America where we've been oppressed and seen lots of violence, that we haven't all been given tools and resources, and there's some classism in that, but we haven't all been given tools and resources that says what we have done or seen in our culture isn't what we want to be, right? We don't see enough people wanting to be that different, right? We could go across the gamut with that, right? We don't see enough wholesome marriages where men aren't cheating or where men don't leave their children, right? And that mentoring is everything, right? It's everything when you don't have tools or resources in how to conduct yourself. And I think we give people credit because you have $1 billion or $1 million or 100 million, I don't know, that you should have that. But money doesn't give you emotional intelligence. Fame doesn't give you emotional intelligence. Status or stature, a bishop or an apostle, a pastor or acolyte does not give you emotional intelligence. It is from the practice, the observation, the mentoring. That's why, Roger, I wanted you in this room.
Self-work. Self-work is where emotional intelligence comes from. Definitely so. But you know what I wonder, Marcus, and I'm throwing way out. As outspoken as Jada is, and as strong of a Black woman as she is, You know, it occurred to me how interesting it was that she didn't speak up for herself.
The thoughts that run through my mind, of course, part of the inbox conversation that people share, Darren, is that she's really the villain in this because she really manipulates him to show her that he is this kind of thug man that he has never been and never been designed to be. And she is so smart that she uses it to push buttons at the right time to control a man that she knows is desperately grappling to show that he's not a coward and he's not a BICTH man, right? So
Amen.
a lot of people are saying that's the true villain here.
Okay.
That's who should be sued. People are saying, going in the inbox, what I wanted to say in response to them. Some of that may be true, and all of it may be true. I don't know. But the reason why I have empathy for Will, something that he said that resonated with me, and not really in a great way. He says, you do, I'm paraphrasing, he says, you do crazy things for love. And I think he believes that. Yeah. And I think he's been coached, manipulated, guided, inculcated to believe that is how you demonstrate love. That's how you demonstrate it. And being aligned with the person who enables that and maybe fosters that is dangerous. I'm thankful that they don't live in an environment where, what Roger said, it could have deadly consequences, because I think it's this wanting him to be like this thug and Tupac that creates this dilemma of his struggle to be this vessel that he wants to be, but knowing that he has to present and be something different. So I think there's no camera that shows me that she gave him a look like, handle it. But I think she pushed the right button for him to know that he had to respond in some way. And to what I just saw what Tabitha was saying, it was too quick because he hadn't had the practice to be able to say, baby, I'll handle this afterwards. Or to just speak up and say, Chris, I got you later. I mean, he felt that in that moment, he had to become the Tupac or whatever it is that he was envisioning. I don't know. I'm putting words in his mouth. That he had to get up and do something. And I what Evelyn said, I don't know if she said on camera, but we were talking to inbox. She said, a good woman stops her husband from trouble and says, no, baby, don't do that here. Oh, I know you love me. No, baby, not here. No. She would stand in front of him and say, no, we're not going up there. We're not doing that. And I said, well, Evelyn, is that just, where were you? Because she's 70 and I'm a little younger than that, which she brought to my attention. Thank you, Evelyn. Is that just our generation that would do it? She says, no, I would expect a woman who loves her husband to say, I'm not let you get yourself in trouble. I'm good.
That's right.
Well, she's really strong and good. Why didn't she say, no, Will, we good. Well, we can handle this at the after party. She did not.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. And I think it reveals a lot about their relationship. Just that the interaction that happened revealed a lot about, more than we already knew prior to.
Yeah.
I think that revealed a whole lot more about their relationship. And so whoever comments those were in your inbox, I say amen to all of that, except one thing. What you said and what they said, I say amen to all that except one thing. I think he does get mentoring and counseling and handling and that stuff. But I think it's from his wife.
Yeah. Yep. And I would go further, but I don't want to villainize her to say she orchestrates who can mentor. Right.
Yes. Yes.
Valencia knows this. I'm dealing with a leader who certain people can get in his ear. And only those people can get in his ear. And they've learned to orchestrate certain chaos because they have his ear.
Yeah.
And they don't allow people who can give rational advice to him because it's a position of power they've created, in essence. I love it. What Karen says, I would do that. You will not implicate our brand. Yeah. A good woman, like Tabitha is saying, I will handle it during the break. I'm not going to say, I said a good woman. Jada might be a good woman for him. Let me say it differently. A woman who understands what they could lose says, hey, you could go up there, but we're going to lose.
Right.
She protects her husband. She protects him and says, hey, I'm good. I'm good on this one. We'll get with him later. And so, you know, it's unfortunate, but you know,
it is. Your characterization is golden because he won, but they lost.
They lost.
They did lose.
Yeah. I'm talking to Darren Williams, who's a staple in the Love and Stuff community. And the more I talk to him, the more I know him and Roger and other brothers got to come together in men's space. We've been talking about men's space for quite some time.
Forever.
This is just another example of tools that brothers need, because we're going to have more brothers. There are already brothers doing this, but we're going to have more brothers doing it because they don't have the tools that they need to navigate what Black men, you said it brilliantly, I thought. Black men are navigating every minute, not every day. We got to navigate every minute. And I know we're still in Women's History Month and women have been navigating too, but let me tell you, sisters, we're navigating a thug life we're not trying to live, a rich life that we haven't yet gotten, an educated life that people don't want to give us access to. We're navigating a lot, just like every other demographic across the African American diaspora. And if we don't have tools to help us navigate, we might find ourselves in similar situations as we have seen with Will Smith. That's why when Sharon, I think it was Sharon earlier, was saying, don't judge him. I think it is good to look into the lens. Of course, we got biased lens, right? But look into the lens, look into the window of his life and say, there are things that I don't see in mine, and there are things I do see. There are things I relate to, and there are things I think I would never do, because both seek to inform you about the world in which we navigate. And if we only just look at it for the purpose of gawking, that's all we'll have to show for it. But if you look at the purpose, okay, what can I learn in this and what can I give to this? You'll find yourself walking away with a treasure trove of things that you can do to implement. I'm going to, in 1 second, go to the comments because folks are joining. And I appreciate it. And as I said at the beginning, now we don't do salacious shows every week. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's hard to sustain for me because I want you to dive more deeply into love and stuff than just the salaciousness. But I know that's what you love. That's why there are people here, and I appreciate it. But come back next week. Now, it might not be the same thing. We might not still be talking about Will, but we will be talking about love and stuff. And so for the 76% women, we did take a small detour from Women's History Month, but we'll come back with our final show for that because I wanted to talk about this topic, which I think is important to our entire community. So let me say thank you to Leroy Hurd, who has joined us. Krista Williams, Valencia Etner, Mama V has joined us. Thank you so much. Let's see. Okay, I think I'm catching up. I'm trying to, Krista Williams, did I say that? Hi, Crystal. Thank you for joining us. Another person in the inbox and was talking about this setting women back. Some women felt like it set them back because they felt, wait a minute, do we need a big bad man to come to our rescue? Can we not stand up and speak forward for ourselves? Are we not empowered to be? Did we, or were the damsel in distress? What is that? What do you think about that, Darren?
Let me say a couple of things. Number one, and I actually addressed that a moment ago when I said how ironic it is that Jada does not speak for herself. But let me say this first though. I really don't think this is a departure from Women's History Month because all of this is motivated out of a joke directed towards and a simulated defense of a woman. Okay, so I don't even see it as a departure from Women's History Month. I think we're still in it, and especially now with the comment from the sister. I do hear what the sister says who said that. My only care and concern there, because Black women don't have no problem defending themselves. Black women don't have no problem protecting themselves in the face of nobody. Okay, female, male, Black, female, male, white, aliens, blue, green, or purple. Black women don't have no problem defending themselves. But the caution I add to that is, and I got to be cautious as I say it, because it's gonna come. It's gonna come when I say this. That's out of that vein. The caution is it coming out of the vein that I don't need a man. All right, that rejection of have a male and female relationship and whatever that provides. And that's my only caution to that. But this is another thing that I want to say back to a comment some time ago about that we shouldn't judge. Very different I am on that. I do say that we are never to be judgmental, which is to pass verdicts on people, which is to castigate and place people other place. But we do have to judge, especially what's in front of us every day. Only the wise is careful to be able to look at what's happening and determine and decide, about how this affects what is going on around me. So I'm not judgmental. Okay. So, the thing of, belittling Will and that, because as much as I think he's wrong, my position has never been to belittle him or to call him or to put him down or anything like that. But judging that the impropriety of it, how unwise it was, and those things, those are necessary parts of cultural criticism.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you said it better than I even thought it. You thought it and said it. Because I was grappling with trying to get her to understand, I think we do have a responsibility. And I just, but Karen said something that I love it. Well, she's saying, I'm not sure, Karen, that I love it, but I'm loving to repeat it. We absolutely do need a big, bad man. We spend too much time being masculine and eroding our natural place as men and women in relation to another. What I mean is, you don't need a big bad man, do you think, Karen, to pop somebody in the face? If you saw Anthony Smith's comment, he said a white man hit his woman on the butt. Now, to me, that's very disrespectful. He recognized, though, that the man was drunk, and he could, if he had responded like he wanted to, he'd be in jail. So I don't know if I want to make sure I'm understanding big bad man as a protector, but not a big bad man who's just going to go off without emotional intelligence, because he's going to be fighting all the time, Karen, with your fine self. You're going to be out somewhere and somebody going to say something and that big bad man going to have to fight. I don't think you mean that, right? I think you do mean in his role as provider and protector. And I agree that there are roles that we have in relationships, but I don't think that role means that this man becomes some hyper extension of that he has to resort to some violence. That's what I meant by that. Because a woman, I'm with Darren on this, some of the strongest people that I've known are women ask their husbands. they're women. Now, there are women who don't know that they're strong, another show, but there are certainly women who have stood up and know how to stand up for themselves. We have a clear, convincing record of that, right? And so I think Jada's one of them, but I think she stood up to on Oscar night in her own way.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It was a very, it might be considered a very manipulative way, but it got maybe what she wanted in that moment. Yeah. Now, her response she did put out a response today. It's a season of healing, and I'm here for it. I thought we needed a little something different, but that led me more into how we might orchestrate different narratives at this point. Because you need healing from what your husband did. Your husband needs healing, and so now you're disavowing yourself from what he did. what do you really mean by it's a season of healing and I'm here for it instead of we're here for it.
Right.
Right. So now you're saying that action was on him. He needs healing. And I'm here to help him heal. What are you really saying? Because you didn't say, while we don't I agree with my husband, we don't condone violence.
Right.
But that might not have been true for you to say, because maybe you do condone violence.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
You were gonna the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's response. I didn't even know he made a statement. I'd love to hear.
Yes, I gotta pull it up. He made a statement, a pretty, I want to say, pretty cogent one. I hope I got it pulled up. And a lot of it, let me see if I can pull it up quick. While I'm doing that, thank all of you that are joining. Elijah Jacobs has joined us. I appreciate that. I hope you will click share. Those of you that are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna make my quick commercial thought. Join us inside 11 Stuff. We're having a great time inside 11 Stuff. We're going to be marching out of physical fitness and exercise, which was this focus, moving into April. We're talking about setting boundaries. But I shared in this month, which is Sleep Awareness Month, a 8-hour video that you can get on YouTube now. It's free. If you're having trouble sleeping, play this video on any device and see if it helps you to sleep better. It's yours free, and I'll drop the link in the comments so that you can have that. Join us on that journey. Great sleep, great eating, great exercise, setting boundaries. We're well on our way to pursuing the best self in 2022. All right, that was my commercial break. Here's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's, someone said, thoughtful response. When Will Smith stormed onto the Oscar stage to strike Chris Rock for making a joke about his wife's short hair, he did a lot more damage than just to Rock's face. With a single petulant blow, he advocated violence, diminished women, insulted the entertainment industry, and perpetuated stereotypes about the Black community. That's a lot to unpack. Let's start with the facts, he said. Rock made a reference to Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, as looking like Demi Moore in G.I. Jane, in which Moore had shaved her head. Jada Pinkett Smith suffers from alopecia, which causes hair loss. Okay, I can see where the Smiths might not have found that joke funny. But Hollywood award shows are traditionally a venue where much worse things have been said about celebrity as a means of downplaying the fact that it's basically a gathering of multimillionaires giving each other awards to boost business so they can make even more money. The Smiths could have reacted by politely laughing along with the joke or by glowering angrily at Rock. Instead, Smith felt the need to get up in front of his industry peers and millions of people around the world, hit another man, then return to his seat to bellow, "Keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth." Twice. Some have romanticized Smith's action as that of a loving husband defending his wife. Comedian Tiffany Haddish, who starred in the movies Girls Trip with Pinkett Smith, praised Smith's actions. And he quotes, "For me, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen because it made me believe that there are still men out there that love and care about their women, their wives," unquote. Actually, he continues, it was the opposite. Smith's slap was also a slap to women. If Rock had physically attacked Pinkett Smith, Smith's intervention would have been welcomed. Or if he'd remained in the seat and yelled his post-slap threat, that would have been unnecessary, but understandable. But by hitting Rock, he announced that his wife was incapable of defending herself against words. From everything I've seen of Pinkett Smith over the years, she's a very capable, tough, smart woman who can single-handedly take on a lame joke at the Academy Awards show. This patronizing paternal attitude infantilizes women and reduces them to helpless damsels needing a big, strong man to defend their honor lest they swoon from the vapors. If he was really doing it for his wife and not his own need to prove himself, he might have thought about the negative attention this brought on them much harsher than the benign joke. That would have been truly defending and respecting her. This women needs men to defend them is the same justification currently being proclaimed by conservatives passing laws to restrict abortion and the LGBTQ plus community. Worse than the slap was Smith's tearful, self-serving acceptance speech in which he rambled on about all the women in the movie, King Richard, that he protected. Those who protect don't brag about it in front of 15 million people. They just do it and shut up. You don't do it as a movie promotion claiming how you're like the character you just won an award portraying. But of course, the speech was about justifying his violence. Apparently, so many people needed Smith's protection that occasionally it gets too much and someone needs to be smacked. What is the legacy of Smith's violence? He brought back the toxic bro ideal of embracing Cobra Kai teachings of might makes right and talk is for losers. Let's not forget that this macho John Wayne philosophy was expressed in 2 movies in which Wayne spanked grown women to teach them lessons. Young boys, especially Black boys, watching their movie idol not just hit another man over a joke, but then justify it as him being a superhero-like protector, are now much more prone to follow in his childish footsteps. Perhaps the saddest confirmation of this is the tweet from Smith's child Jaden, quote, "and that's how we do it," unquote. The Black community also takes a direct hit from Smith. One of the main talking points from those supporting the systemic racism in America is characterizing Blacks as more prone to violence and less able to control their emotions. Smith just gave comfort to the enemy by providing them with the perfect optics they were dreaming of. Many will be reinvigorated to continue their campaign to marginalize African Americans and others through voter suppression campaign. As for the damage to show business, Smith's violence is an implied threat to all comedians who now have to worry that an edgy or insulting joke might be met with violence. Good thing Don Rickles, Bill Burr, or Ricky Gervais weren't there. As comedian Kathy Griffin tweeted, "Now we all have to worry about who wants to be the next Will Smith in comedy clubs and theaters." The one bright note is that Chris Rock, clearly stunned, managed to handle the moment with grace and maturity. If only Smith's acceptance speech had shown similar grace and maturity and included, instead of self-aggrandizing excuses, a heartfelt apology to Rock. I loved it. I had to read it in its entirety because I think he highlights so many things, and some of which I used and gleaned already in the conversation, much more than just what we call a hoe slap, or at least in some of the hoods, neighborhoods that I'm from. They would have said hoe slap or BITCH slap. What do you add to that, if anything, Darren?
Just one thing. I maybe Will was invoking or claiming to a hero bravado by doing that. But I think his apology really captured the real thing, the prepared apology that you read, where he says, I think the concluding remark, "I'm a work in progress." Mm-hmm. That is an admission of immaturity and weakness. Mm-hmm. That's not a claim of strength. Mm-hmm. I think that really, really, really typified the whole piece. But yes, I think Kareem there covered the gamut of all of what was there. I really think so. Even the fact, again, and I didn't do this with any of it, the racial piece, or what if it was this or that. Mm-hmm. I didn't do any of that kind of thing because I'm so serious and centered on us. You know, I need to see how and why and what and where for us. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying in that, alluding to Kareem's comment, you know, that's an effect that all of us are having to deal with. I don't care about the Oscar stage, because where so many people are, this is our, we're really embracing it again, and all of that kind. I don't give a good hot chocolate about that. My thing is what that has done and what it will do in our relationship with ourself now again. Because to see it on that stage and to see it in those personalities in too many people's eyes, it glorifies and it justifies. And how we will have to live that down is really the racial piece that's important to me. That's concerning, disconcerting, and important for me.
It may land wrong. I would have felt better if it were a Caucasian comedian, because and I couldn't, my mind couldn't help but go back to, because for this space, this entertainment acting space, we have endured so much to be on those types of stages, and is true for every aspect of life, in business, in the arts, and entertainment and music and all of these places. And I had to think of, now, how would Sidney Poitier feel if he were sitting there? Because our people have in entertainment worked to set a certain standard of excellence to be at that table. And that has meant something for the collective of African Americans who live and thrive and hope to live and thrive in that space. And so for them, it does set them back in that space, and they would give hot chocolate about it, right? Because they have given hot chocolate for it, right? They've given life and limb and sacrifice for it. And it's the same for you and I, to some degree, of maybe not as much for you, or even the more, as a preacher, maybe in spaces where there are multicultural opportunities, maybe they will regard you differently. Maybe the ground that you have sown and grown is impacted by that. In corporate America, they already do look at Black men as being angry and afraid, that they're going to go off. And some of us might, but if you try us, right? But it does tend to set back all of that ground, especially for actors, and in a time where we keep saying we need a place, we need the spaces more diverse. We need it is a slap in the face of all of that work. A real
sure. I don't disagree with that at all. I do not disagree with that. My comment a moment ago is that as it all plays out is not, to me, what's going to be most critical. Because 2 years from now, white people have gotten over it, and they'll have another Will Smith up there. They'll get over that. They'll get over that. We are harder to get over what we do to each other than anybody else is. That's what I'm talking about, because it's not the Academy and white people's decision putting us on stage or not that gets us there. That's not really what gets us there. It's the actions of a Jada Smith and Spike Lee and those who boycott. It's what we do in protest that gets us advances. Because if it was them doing it, we would never have the problem in the first place. But it's when we take the stand in our strength together that they have to respond to that. So that's why I'm saying the most important part is not the Academy's opinion about what that does with white people, it's what it does to us. And I'll say it again, it takes us longer to recover what we inflict on ourselves than it does what they do to us. That's where my big concern for it is. I discussed it with my classes yesterday, and somebody actually brought it up again today. Mr. Williams, I heard that you talked about this in your class. And to hear what my students' response is. And I have African American, white, and Latino and Asian students, and everybody had an opinion. But to hear what our students were saying, I'm thinking, oh my God, we're in trouble. We're in trouble because violence, that kind of violence, is normalized to them already. But to see their idols and on that stage to engage in it, it sends a whole nother message. While I'm saying one thing about violence, but them seeing Will Smith do it, that's a whole nother understanding that they're getting, a whole nother acceptance that comes to them.
And so, because I don't think, Lynn, do you think that Will Smith understands that?
I know his child doesn't, as Kareem pointed out. Whichever child say that's how we do it. I'm probably, and it was Jaden.
Yeah,
I assume that. So it's clear that Jaden didn't, and I think I'm not even sure that Will does yet, because his apology, the way the apology is crafted, you know, it sounds like a coached apology. And the community is mentioned in it, but without any connection. Well, the community is mentioned. I'm just concerned about how connected the care for what is done happened to the community in it is really there. So I'm not sure that he understands that yet. He knows what is done to the academy. He knows what is done to his standing, you know, in his profession. But racially, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. You said a moment ago something that resonated with me. It takes us longer to get over what we do to us. And so the question that came to mind, then why do we do it, is one of the things. But the other thing is, in getting to a get over it, right? Getting to a healing. Karen is saying men need an emotionally safe space among other men and in their homes and relationships. How do we, I think that is good and important in the getting over I think we need to understand why we keep doing what we do in each other, number one. But in the getting over it, we do need a safe space. And I'm not so sure, and maybe he does, I'm not so sure outside of a Denzel and a Tyler Perry, who I guess came up and talked to him, and I can't think right now of the Caucasian gentleman that came and talked to him.
Bradley Cooper.
Thank you very much. We need a safe space. How important do you think that is to the getting over it? I guess is the second question. The first question is really, why do we, if it take us so long, why do we do this to us?
Yeah. The answers to both questions is the same, but this caveat first, getting over it is not the issue. In fact, what does get over it mean? Get over it is not it. Get over it ain't it. That's not what you do, because what get over it says is that this has occurred, and I'm sitting it right here. I'm gonna move here, but when it's convenient, then I refer back to it. I pick it back up again. That's not what we need. That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's not what we need. I wasn't
thinking of that as getting over, but I hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying for this whole concept of getting over, this is my point.
Got it.
African American people, and here's why we do what we do to each other, because we don't love us. We do not love us. And so getting over it is what we have to do because we don't love us. When you love doesn't offend. And love doesn't take offense. And when that is in place, there's no necessity. There's no such thing as getting over it, because it does not occur. And so even if there is, first of all, love does not offend, that means that I don't do nothing that's going to hurt you, even if it's a joke. If there's a possibility, if there's a potentiality that there is damage in it, I'm avoiding that. I'm not even going there. But on the other side, whatever may have been done, love says, I don't even take offense. I'm not going to look at it that way. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to accept it like that. And when that is in play, love. And that's why what I said, when Will talks about a vessel of love, man, what are you talking about? You're as confused religiously as whoever is. He's so confused. He talks about a vessel of love. man, don't let those words come out of your mouth. But because he invoked that, then I say that what we do to us is because we don't love us, and it takes us so long to get over it is because we don't operate in love. We do not operate in that love.
And then
That's what I think.
that's excellent. The second question is kind of what I wanted to raise from what Karen is saying. These emotionally safe spaces among men in their homes and in relationships.
Yeah. I, for African Americans, exclusivizing and sectizing is destroying us. That was an offense, a perceived offense against a woman. So the emotionally safe space needs to be created against men and women. Where there is an offense, a man against a man, that's a space where men need emotionally safe spaces. But we struggling with our women. That if the time we get together and do fine is that time that we're laying down with each other. Almost all the other time other than that, there's tension. There's tension with us. That emotionally safe space needs to take place there, because even, Brother Marcus, if that emotionally safe space between men and women were intact, the writers of that joke wouldn't have done it. And so it's not just safe space with men, except when there is the issue with men. And we need them both. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We do need them both. But this was an instance of both. It actually is an instance of both. We do need them both. Yes, indeed. But and so in terms of this sectizing, what I'm saying is we're learning from white people to have men's meetings and women's Bible studies and youth Sunday school and children's church. Ain't nowhere in history where the family was separated like that. Throughout history, the family did what it did together. And for the family to stay together, you gotta do what you do together. But we're taking other people's models of, men got to do this here and this and that and there. When that stuff is happening that way, there's a precedent that's being set now. And I hear people talking, well, there's a time when men need to be around men and women. Amen to that. That's not what I'm saying. But for healing and health purposes, we need to heal and bring to health ourselves as men and women. The destruction aimed at the African American community since we landed on these shores was to separate the men and the women. We don't need to keep engaging in that process for our health's sake. That's all I'm saying to that. I just be careful on that. But if I'm beefing with a brother, yeah, me and some other brothers need to sit down and work through that. I yes to that. But if I'm beefing with a sister, I don't need to be sitting down with brothers doing that. If there's where the issue is, I need to be dealing with sisters.
Okay. I love that perspective. I'm not sure I wholeheartedly agree with it, but I do love it. Okay. I love it. I love the perspective because I think you're right. There is an all-out attack on the family.
Sure it is.
I just know that mentorship, even from a biblical standpoint, I think mentorship is important. And I think even more so because as that assault has happened on the family, there are men that haven't known how to be men. And so how are you working out with the woman when you haven't gotten the self-love and self-understanding of what it is to be a man, and you don't learn that in the throes of being with that woman to correct it? You might need the mentorship of another man. And so I could see we're both fit, but I get your point. And I believe that. I believe that there's still an all-out attack on the family to separate the family. And I just know that in that attack, there are people who have lost their identity of womanhood, manhood, sonship, daughtership, all of these things, right? And so I think an effective way to help that, to Karen's point, would be some spaces for mentorship, and I think that would be a good purpose for that. But I get your point, and I think I love it. I'm going back to the comments. We're talking with Darren Williams, and we've been talking for quite a bit. And I know why you're here, because you all like salacious stuff. But listen, every time I have Darren on, it's not going to be this salacious. So we want you to come and be a part of the Love and Stuff community, where we do talk about salacious topics, but we're also talking about social justice. We're also talking about lift every voice and vote. We're also talking about women's history. And Darren made a great connection. We're not really detouring from it altogether, ladies, but it isn't the planned presentation that we have, but we had to jump on this bandwagon because I think so many people feel so vested, especially when the people that we have considered as icon and idol and who have been a part of our Black excellence have a misstep. And it's a big misstep. And there are a lot of missteps that led to this misstep. I don't think it's just a misstep that came out of left. But I think we all can learn that you can have a misstep and you have to truly come forward and apologize for that misstep, sincerely apologize to, as you heard Darren say earlier, to the person that you've offended, if you're going to reconcile the misstep, right? And we might, though we take a look at your misstep, we might have grace and empathy, because you might not even be fully aware of what to apologize for. And if you've ever been on any journey in life, you've been in a position where you learned more about the apology as you move forward and learn what you really should have been apologizing for, where you really had missteps. And that is a part of the maturity process. That's a part of growing in emotional intelligence, is to look back and see your missteps and understand why and where you went wrong. So we wish the best for Will Smith, though we think he was wrong, as Evelyn said, as two left shoes, she said. Wrong in that his thought of defending his wife really wasn't a defense at all. It was a serious misstep, and who will know the full impact of that misstep? We'll continue to watch it as we see it unfold, and we'll see if we hear from Chris Rock or anybody else from the Oscars, because I think they wrote the jokes. Let's see what we hear from them, and whether or not people will be saying cancel culture. I don't know if you cancel people that make mistakes, because then you got to throw your hat in the ring, because you've made some, I've made some. So we got this cancel culture where we hold people to this level when maybe we shouldn't have been expecting this level of emotional intelligence from Will at this space and time and juncture in his life anyway. Andre is saying, yes, this is deeply, deeply hurtful. I'm so glad you stopped through. Roger says it was a perceived attack against Black women. Thank you, sir. And the agenda of separation has not changed. No, it has not. Thank you all. And so I'm going to give Darren a second to have some closing words. I want to, before I do that, invite you all to click like on the Love and Stuff page and go under groups. Under groups, there is a group called Inside of Love and Stuff. And inside of Love and Stuff, currently we're on a 12-month journey through self-care. You talk about loving yourself. I believe love is the neglected love. Now, self-love is the neglected love. I know we're neglecting to love God, and we're trying to figure that out. I hope all of you are on the journey to do that. But if you're not, you should try that. We say we understand that God is love, and we're trying to really embrace and understand what that means, right? We can't really fathom it fully, but we're trying to walk in it, right? But then we're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves. And Jesus says, all of the commandments hang on these two laws. All of the commandments and the prophets hang on these two laws, right? So loving your neighbor as yourself. Think about that. Loving your neighbor like you love yourself. Now, what if you're not loving yourself? Your whole neighbor is hit, isn't he or she? And in this case, hit is literal. No, real pun intended, right? Because as Darren said, I was about to say the good preacher said in the sermon, as Darren said, right? Love does not offend. So think about it. If you're hitting somebody else, are you really hitting yourself? Is that really what self-love is telling you to do, is to hit somebody else? There's a self-love consideration that we all should look at. As we see how we're interacting with other people, we should be asking ourselves, how am I loving me? So you should join us on that journey, because I believe self-care is really your gratefulness and your love speaking to your worthiness. And you won't think that you're worth it if you're not loving yourself, right? And ultimately, you won't think others are worthy of it either, right? And so join us on that self-care journey. Go under groups, click on the group, and then we will admit you. And we are having a meeting each Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time, where you can join us and glean some great information. I'm going to drop the link to the sleep video. If you're not having a good night's sleep, we want you to have a good night's sleep. It's an 8-hour video that you can play on any device and just see if it helps you sleep better. Sleep is where we started in January. March is Sleep Awareness Month. Before you get into your day, you need a good night's sleep. You need a restful, peaceful sleep. And so we started there in January. We're talking about marching into physical fitness and exercise. In February, eating right. And now as we go into May, we'll talk about setting boundaries, which emotional intelligence is an important tool in that, because you can say, you cross my boundaries. What you really have to learn to say is, that's my boundary, and I'll vacate the space so that you can't infringe upon me, right? Because you can't stop people from being disrespectful, but you can vacate the space in which they deliver disrespect. And we wish that Will had known that, right? So that he would have, if he felt disrespected, vacated the space of going, creating the situation that we're all talking about today. So want to drop those few things with you. And Darren, do you have any closing thoughts before we go? This has been a wonderful evening. You and Autumn and Evelyn Graham, thank you all for joining us. And join us next week. I said, I'm not going to promise it's going to be salacious, but I promise you that we'll bring you content that'll make you think about your love and stuff. So Darren, anything before we close?
I will say this, that I think the most imperative thing to come out of all of this, again, Will Smith's initial apology on stage that night. Twice he invoked and invited the concept of love. I think that's imperative, because that became the standard by which he judged himself. He judged himself by the standard of love. For me, that's the takeaway for all of us. Peggy Noonan says this: what you applaud, you encourage. Be careful what you celebrate. But my first systematic theology professor said this, and this is what I want to leave us with, and it's on love. Daniel Clendenin said, love is our ethic. It's not how we feel. Okay? It's not what we exchange between each other. But out of everything that forms us in what we do and say, love is our ethic. And Will Smith brought that in. Thank you, Brother Marcus, for always rich, rewarding experience, and the humble me for you even inviting me to be a part of all the wonderful things, the great things, the remarkable things that you're enduring, that you're doing. Blessings on you, man. God bless you.
Well, you know, I always tell you this, on camera or off, we are honored to have great people in love and stuff like you. I was just in the inbox, no lie, telling people that you should take advantage of these inside of love and stuff, because you don't know who you're rubbing noses and elbows with.
Sure.
There are people in our Love and Stuff community who will tremendously bless your life. I know because they bless mine. And so you are one of those people who, you know, are very valued in our Love and Stuff community. And so we appreciate your mind. We appreciate your presence. And I think that's a great hashtag to end with. Love is our ethic. I love that. I might have to, who said that? Because I might have to steal. I don't want no trademark issues if I put it on a t-shirt, but I love that. I love that. Love is our ethic. And I think, you know, I think I hope I'm more committed to doing that. I could be like a Will Smith in a moment where if I don't practice emotional intelligence, facing some of the things that I've seen and microaggressions and systemic racism, I could respond the same. There go I, unless I'm willing to have grace and willing to practice emotional intelligence and willing to have love as my ethic, right?
That's right.
Because there's something in what my experience has been to the degree that's been oppressive, right? Or in systems of oppression that makes me say, I got to fight my way out. I got to aggress my way out. And it's only if I rely on an ethic of love to guide my behaviors, to reinforce the principles and values that I ascribe to, that I'll be able to have any measure of success in this world. So I love it. Love is our ethic. That's right. Thank you, Karen. Drop that as the hashtag. I'm gonna change the title on this to add it in as the hashtag. I love it. And we love and appreciate you, Darren Williams, and all of you in the Love and Stuff community. Come back next week. Now, I'm not gonna promise that Darren, you know, Darren, as I know, is single. I know, ladies, you're looking and thinking this smart guy, I want to marry him. All I'm saying is he might not be on the screen. It might just be me next week. So what you got to do is still come back. And you have to come back even when we don't have salacious shows. Because you know, I'm about to go take a nap. This is this Will Smith has been a nonstop. I know the journalists are really happy to have something to talk about and write about, but I wanted to throw our net in there, if you will, because I did know, Darren Williams, that you would bring the space of love. And I think that's what our world needs. We need more love. If we can love the people who we say are unlovable, and if we can love ourselves and love others by the measure of that love, what a different world. How would we differently have embraced Will Smith and said, oh my goodness, that wasn't an act of love, even though he wants it to be. Here's how we respond to that, right? Here's how we respond in our community when someone in our community breaks the code of love.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope that we will increase our love game. Thank you all so much, Brenda Braceful, Andre Williams. Thank you, Gloria Davis, for joining us. Thank you so much. Have a grateful evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, Darren. I appreciate you so much.
Bless you too. Likewise. Good night.
Good night.